Welcome, one and all. Thank you for joining me. It is Monday Night Nerd. My name is Myers, Corp Cosplay. I'm super excited to be here. We are going to have a great night tonight. Topic. I'm just right now, just giving it a. Come on, let me refresh. I love tech. I love tech. I think we're good. I think we're good. I think we're good. There we go. Okay. Sorry, folks. We are just dealing with some amazing internet connection here. I don't know what to say. Better. Cool. Thank you. This is, yeah, I don't know. Something's up with my internet tonight. Okay. I'm watching. We're good. All right. Let's start the show. Oh, my God. Anyways, welcome to Monday Night Nerd. My name is Myers Corp Cosplay. Thank you for tuning in tonight. We are going to be talking about gaming and mental health. This is a very important topic because there are a lot of gamers out there. We've been all gamers probably through most of our lives, a lot of our lives. And does this affect our mental health? Does it impact you? Positive, negative? We're going to talk all about that, including some studies that I found. But first, we have to talk about the news because, folks, it was a big week. We had CinemaCon. We're going to be talking about all the movies that were announced, including a Deadpool 3, a little bit about that. But first, we have to talk about X-Men 97. Now, if you know me and you know that I'm a cosplayer and you've seen me on my live streams lately on Instagram, I have been working on a Gambit cosplay. Yeah. If you are a Gambit fan and you watch this week's episode or last week's episode now, I feel for you. I don't want to spoil it because it was a rough episode if you're a Gambit fan. Also, if you're a Magneto fan. I don't think anyone expected an episode like that. It was a great episode, but it was definitely a little more emotional than we all wanted. So again, I don't want to spoil it because it hasn't even been a week yet. But if you're an X-Men fan, go watch it. If you're a Gambit fan and a Magneto fan, go watch it. It's a tough watch, but it's great. It's great, and it makes me want to see the next episode. Unfortunately, as you may remember, I will not be here for the next 2 weeks. I'm on vacation, so I am not going to see the next 2 episodes until I get back. So I'm excited to see where they're going to go. Let's jump into all of the CinemaCon talk because this has been the buzz of the internet for the past week. All these announcements were happening. CinemaCon, for those who don't know, it is a big convention held in California where anybody who is a distributor of movies, whether you own a movie theater or etc., they get all together and basically all the companies come out and they do a big presentation and tell them what's going to be coming out in the next year, which is great for us because then we kind of get to see what the movie slate is going to be for the next year. And each franchise or each studio had their moment in the sun. So let's start things off with Disney because that's the one most people can think is going to have the most big announcements. We are well aware that Deadpool 3 is coming out. So there was some talk about Deadpool 3. There was some cursing from Kevin Feige about how great this movie is going to be. They did talk about I think they showed 9 minutes of the film. I don't want to talk about that because the reports I've seen about what those 9 minutes were are very skewed. So I don't want to say something and then it be completely wrong. Honestly, I think we know a little too much about this movie at this point. I think we need to just sort of hold off on the spoilers until we see the movie because we're just going to get the whole movie spoiled and we're going to be really disappointed when we get to the theater. But I'm still super excited for it. I can't wait to see it. The next one was Moana 2, which had The Rock come out and do a haka in front of everybody. I'm excited for that. I liked Moana 1. I think it was a great movie. I don't know what you can really do with number 2, but I'm interested. Obviously The Rock is going to be in it as Maui. I assume the rest of the cast is going to be in it because I don't think anybody passes away in that movie. But yeah, I'll see Moana 2. Mufasa, however, that I'm a little different on. This is the problem, and I think I've said it before on the show. I don't really like prequels. Some are okay. Prey, stuff like that in the Predator series is great, but there are some prequels that most prequels I just don't care about. I don't care about Mufasa's backstory. I don't need to know Mufasa's backstory because I watched Lion King and I saw Mufasa's backstory in my head when they told me about his backstory. I don't need to know every single detail that happened to him. But Disney wants to make money, so we're getting a Mufasa. I'm pretty sure it's animated. I don't think they said it's live action. Again, I just don't see it needed to happen. I really don't. Whatever. Inside Out 2, however, I am super excited for this. I recently watched Inside Out 1 again, and it is as emotional as I remember it. I think having the girl grow up and deal with anxiety and stuff like that, those emotions is going to be very fun to see. I'm very interested how anxiety is going to kind of take over. It looks like it's going to take over a lot of her personality. So I'm interested to see how joy and sadness and anger and all them are going to come together and either form a friendship or push anxiety to the side. But yeah, Inside Out is a really, really good movie. I really think it's probably one of my top 5 Disneys. I think it was on my top 5 Disney when I did my list. But yeah, great movie. Can't wait to see what they're going to do number 2. And then we have another Alien movie coming out. Alien Romulus. Have we not said everything we need to say about the Alien franchise? Like, we got 6. Is there anything that we don't know yet? Like, I think 1, 2, and 3 kind of gave us what we needed. And then Resurrection Forward was kind of like, meh. Like, I haven't even seen the new ones yet because I don't think there's anything that needs to be added to that story. So, and I don't even think the last ones did that well in the box office. So why they're making another one, I don't know. They probably have some xenomorph costumes laying around that they need to use. But if you're a fan of the franchise, congratulations, you got another one. I probably won't see it, unfortunately. Lionsgate came out next. They had a slate of movies. Most of them are not nerd-like, so we're not really going to talk about them. The big one, though, was obviously The Crow, with the trailer dropping a couple weeks ago. I'm interested. I'm a giant fan of the original with Brandon Lee. I like City of Angels. The rest of them are crap. And I think this is just another retelling of the story. I don't have the bad blood to the trailer and them remaking it and what some people are saying they're spitting on Brandon Lee's memory. No, they did that with City of Angels and 3 and 4 and 5. That's way past the point. Like, nobody cares. I don't care about that anymore. I'm interested to see how they're going to do it. The trailer looks great. I think the action looks great. Again, I think it's a modern retelling of it, which means it's, he looks a little bit like the Joker, which is fine, I guess. I mean, it's not exactly how I would do it, but whatever, right? Like I could only do so much. There's only so much you can do with that movie before it just doesn't become The Crow anymore. And I think they're doing enough with it that they're making it different, and I think they're taking it in a new direction, which I'm fine with. Paramount came out next. Gladiator 2 is coming out. Again, this is another one where I don't know why we need a sequel to Gladiator. I think the first one was good. I think I've seen it once. It's not one of my favorite movies of all time. I know there are some diehard Gladiator fans out there, though. So good for them. Again, I don't know if we need this as a sequel. If is coming out, which is the CG animated, I think they're they're not dream characters. They're imaginary friends of people, starring Ryan Reynolds. Interested in that. I think that could be a fun movie. Ryan's always good in a lot of movies. And last but not least, Transformers 1 is coming out, which I'm interested. I did not like the original Michael Bay Transformers. However, I did like the last one. I can't remember what it's called, but I'm going to call it Beast Wars because that's what was the main focus of it. But yeah, I think that's going to be good. Paramount's coming out with great ones. Again, I don't understand Gladiator, but that's me. But I know, like I said, I know there's some diehard fans of that franchise, so they're super excited about it. Universal was next with Despicable Me, what seems like 15, 16 at this point. I think it's 4, 3, but we've also had Minion 15, 16, so I don't know. The first one was good. I don't understand why it's a giant franchise, but I'm not, a kid anymore. So the kids like it. I know when I worked at Toys R Us, that fart blaster sold like crazy. So maybe it's something I don't know. It's not for me, but obviously kids like it. Twisters is an odd one. That one, when I heard that was coming out, I'm going, excuse me? Why? Why Twisters of all movies? Like, you're getting desperate if you're sequeling Twister. Like, I'm sorry. That wasn't a great movie when it first came out. Now we're doing it 20 years, 30 years later, and we're just doing multiple Twisters now. I saw the trailer and I wasn't too thrilled by it. But again, maybe there's an audience out there for it. Maybe they just want to make another Universal Studios ride, but I don't know. That one's not for me. Wicked is interesting. If you're a Broadway fan, they're going to be doing a movie of Wicked. Not seen the play. Again, I know there's some hardcore fans for that. Interesting. I mean, it's probably the best sequel to Wizard of Oz. So good on them. I know the play has done extremely well pretty much anywhere it's been. So it'll probably do well in the movie theater. But yeah, I might see it again. I haven't seen the play, but I got the concept of it, and it's a good idea. So maybe it's a new audience for it. Natasha in chat. Let me pull my mouse over here. They're running out of ideas, and they're remaking old movies now and trying to give them more of a modern twist. I agree. I don't think they're running out of ideas. I do think they are worried about putting a whole bunch of their eggs / money into a basket that they're not sure of. I think it's definitely a smarter idea from a cost point of view to put their money on something that already has an audience. I like that they're doing different versions of it. Like Wicked is obviously it's based off the play, but I think if you're not a Broadway person, this will bring you to the movie side of it. So I kind of like that. But again, I don't know. I will see stuff like that, but I agree. I do think we're getting a little bit too deep in the woods for sequels and remakes and all that. I think it was on the last episode I talked about a study that came out that the Gen X generation is getting a little frustrated with having so many sequels, not getting their childhood movies. They're just getting remakes of what we grew up on, which I'm very interested to see. I can see that very much, that they don't have kid movies anymore. They have sequels to what we grew up with. Alex said accountants are running Hollywood and only invest in safe bets. Well, it's because they're a business, and that's what businesses do. They don't want to risk a whole bunch of money. Let's continue. WB was the last one with Furiosa, which I am very interested in seeing. I loved Mad Max Fury Road. I thought that was an incredible movie. I'm interested in see Furiosa. I think that'll be good. Having Chris Hemsworth as the villain is very interesting. Would not have called that when I first heard it was coming out, but an interesting choice. Beetlejuice is also one coming out from their studio. The trailer came out, or the teaser, I guess, from them last week, I think, and shows Keaton in the suit, and I think that's all anyone really cared about. I know there is callbacks to the original in that trailer. I have not seen the original since like my childhood or teen years, so I couldn't tell you which one it is or what the Easter eggs are. I'm interested in seeing it though, because I'm a Michael Keaton fan, but I could pretty much watch Michael Keaton read the phone book and I'll watch it, but that's me. Last but not least, and this is gonna segue into a trailer that dropped this week, and that is Joker. Joker. I am not thrilled to see this movie. I'm sorry. I did not mind the original. However, I felt it had a lot of problems. I am not a fan of comic book franchises, movie franchises, game franchises, even trying to take a really good villain and try and make them sympathetic and make the audience fall in love with them. I feel that takes so much out of the villain. I feel that does so much harm. And honestly, you know my thoughts on the Joker as a character. I feel it's one of or if not the most overused characters in all of cinema, comics, entertainment in general. I feel like it's Natasha says not rushing out to see it, even though Lady Gaga is in it. I agree. I think Lady Gaga has a great singing voice. I don't mind her music. I sound old when I say it that way, but it's the truth. However, I've not seen her in anything or seen clips of something that she's in that has made me want to see her in any role. I know she got a lot of flack for that last role, where she played the Italian, and her accent was abysmal. I don't see her as Harley. I've heard reports coming out, and again, these are just rumors from what I've heard, that she has been very method acting and just wanting to be called Harley on the set, which is annoying as hell to me. You know, I think there's method acting and then there's being a jerk, and I think she's walking that tightrope really high in the air. Yeah, I'm not thrilled to see this. I think the trailer looks okay, but again, I just don't. It's not for me. Plain and simple, it's not for me. If you're a fan of the Joker, if you're a fan of Batman, that's great. I'm not thrilled to see it, knowing that it's going to be a musical, and from what the trailer looks like, that it's going to be a head. No. I feel like, again, you're trying to gain so much sympathy from a character that has done so many brutal things in entertainment, and you possibly, if this works, might show it in the future. I just feel like it's the wrong thing to do. And I know especially a lot of people had some problems with the first one because it showed a sympathy to people with deranged mental health, and coincidentally we're talking about mental health tonight. I don't think it goes that far. I think that's a bit of a jump for me, but I see their point, and I don't know. I don't agree. I don't like this movie. I think it's something that doesn't need to be made. But I know Joker is, again, such a fan base that they can't put Batman in everything, so this is their alternate of putting the Joker in it, and it will make a bunch of money. And they're probably going to be a sequel. That's fine. Whatever. Hey, Crystal, glad you can join us. So we've got Disney, Lionsgate, Paramount, Universal, WB all coming out, showing their movies, showing what's going to be coming out for the future. We got a lot of great movies coming out. I'm so glad I have gift cards for the cinema, because I will be definitely going to see a bunch of these on the big screen, especially Deadpool 3, which I'll be seeing opening night, probably wearing my Deadpool mask because I'm that guy. Sponsor. Let's get to a quick sponsor, then we'll jump into the main event. Folks, as you know, my sponsor will always be my wife. I love her so much. She made a quick cameo in the pre-show, her voice at least. I wouldn't be the person I am without her. I wouldn't be going on vacation probably without her. I love her. She is incredible, absolutely incredible. You know, I do this every single week, and I kind of run out of things to say because I feel like I'm repeating myself every week, but it's true. I love her, and I would not be here. I would not be the same person I am without her, and I'll always be grateful for that. Love you, hun. Thank you. Let's. And also, if you're still here, If you could hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that share button, hit all that on Facebook, on Twitch, on YouTube, that means a lot to me. If you don't know that I'm on Twitch doing this too. It's also live there if you want to watch it there. With the way this is all set up, it doesn't show a preview like I'm going to be going live. It just clicks on. I don't know how to fix that. So just so you know, if you want to watch me there because it's easier for you because you want to watch me while you're playing games or something, do that. I'm on all three. Ready for the main event, folks? Let's jump in. All right, my nose is super itchy tonight. Gaming and mental health. Can video games improve your well-being? That is a very interesting question that has been debated for decades, if not longer. The idea of a video game, depending on the generation, has had different. It's been different for every generation. You know, I think when they first came out, you had a generation that didn't understand them. Now that generation is kind of seeing what the long-term effects are and the enjoyment that people are getting out of Crystal right off the bat saying yes. We'll get to that. Also, if you guys commented on my story on Instagram, I do have your answers and we'll talk about them at the end. Let's jump into this by starting with how video games have evolved, because I feel like this mental health question has really changed over the years because video games have changed over the years. You know, back in the day, it's really easy to say, you know, they're one thing. We've built things like we've had things like the internet, so we have communities now and etc. So let's start at the beginning. So when the first video games start, they were what they were built to be. They were a distraction. They were a form of entertainment, a new form of interactive media. So, you know, I don't want to go all the way back to Pong and stuff like that, but let's start with, you know, I'm a kid of the late 80s, so let's start with Nintendo. Nintendo was basically built for after school gaming. That's what I consider it. You bought this console for your child or yourself and you played it as a distraction. You know, whether, again, it's Nintendo or it's Super Nintendo or it's taking a Game Boy in a car for a long drive with a kid. These are all things simply to distract you from your everyday life, your responsibilities, taking you away to a world that you can enjoy. The next generation of video games was what I'm just calling the battery games. And the battery games are games that have a little battery in them. And if you did not know that, many cartridges starting around the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis era, more Super Nintendo, had batteries in them. And what those batteries did was they allowed you to save your game. You were able to save your game so you could play it later. You didn't have the Mario 1 experience where every time you booted up your game, you had to start from stage 1. In games like Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo, you could go a certain length, save your game, and come back later and play from there forward. What happened with this is you can make games longer. You can make them more in depth. That changes things because when it comes to a distraction, you were playing World 1, World 2, etc. in the regular Mario games, but you weren't getting too far and you only had a certain amount of lives. And usually when you got to the end of those lives, you gave up and you did something else. With this, you had longer games and you were sitting there playing more and playing longer and spending more time on them because you got to see more of the game. I know this happened a lot, and especially, like I said, Super Mario World was probably the first one that I can think of, but the first one that I remember from my childhood that really made me go like, oh, like this is something that continues after I turn this off. I can come back and play more, was Pokemon. Pokemon Red was the first Pokemon game I had for my Game Boy, and I don't know why, but that was the first time I understood the concept of a game save and coming back later and collecting things and not having to start from scratch every single time. The next version, I would call it, is the bonding couch co-op experience. So these are the games that allowed you to play multiplayer, and you were able to sit down with your friends, have that interaction, have that camaraderie on a couch in front of a TV. I would say the first one to really popularize this. You always had the little brother. Let's cut that right now. You always had the little brother. You had the Super Mario where he played Luigi or something like that. Natasha says it right in chat. Yes, the first one to popularize that would, in my opinion, be GoldenEye for the N64. And I can clearly remember sitting down at a friend's house with about 7, 8 of us on a couch playing 4-player multiplayer and just having hours and hours of interactive fun. You could also say Mario Kart for the N64 was also another one. Mario Kart for the Super was popular, but I think Mario Kart 64 was that boom of, oh, this is something we all enjoy doing. This generation of games really didn't stop, or at least grew in different versions. And I would say the biggest crescendo of these would be Guitar Hero, Rock Band, and Wii Sports. Those are probably the 3 kings of the modern era of gaming that a lot of people would, have a party and they'd have Rock Band set up, or they'd have Guitar Hero set up, or SingStar, or something like that. Also, Natasha in chat as well, Super Smash Brothers. Super Smash Bros. Is another one. They still have competitions for even games like Super Smash Bros. Melee for the GameCube. But yes, that was the next generation. So you still had that camaraderie by seeing people and having them next to you while you were playing your game. Obviously, the next generation of those games was the online multiplayer, which is still dominating today. These included games that had voice chat and community building. So you had games that you would get together and you'd talk to people. They wouldn't be in the same room. They'd be online, and you would be able to play the game with them. Crystal, you never had that console? Aw, you need to get one. It's a really good console, even now. I think you're talking about the N64, and if you did, you need to get an N64, or at least, if you have a Switch, you can download the Virtual Console. Just get the Switch Plus or the premium online thing. You can play it on there. All the big ones are on there. So the online multiplayer voice chat community building games, those kind of took over, obviously, in the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360. That's when that generation kind of exploded with games like WoW, COD, Halo, and then PC gaming has also started to become bigger with games like World of Warcraft, League of Legends, etc. This is another, again, form of gaming where you didn't just play with your friends. They weren't sitting next to you. These were games that you'd play online and you'd have interactions with complete strangers. You'd do missions with strangers. You might join a community like the WoW community, or I'm trying to think of another one, Command and Conquer, those type of games where you could play online with I wish I could afford that. My PS5 was a large purchase. I am well aware my PS5 was a large purchase as well. But that would be the next version. They were definitely a type of gaming that I don't know how long it's going to keep going until the next generation comes out, because the next generation is something we'll talk about near the end of this episode, but it's definitely something that's taken over gaming. I think it's sort of taken over the community, nerddom, the world, basically. The only other one that's come out recently that I think definitely plays a pivotal role. Yes, GTA. Oh boy, GTA Online. Very true, Natasha. Before we jump into the next part, yeah, that's another one. GTA Online is another one that, it's the game. GTA 5 has been on 3 different console generations now, so that tells you how long, how well their online service is going. If people are doing 3 different generations of that game, and folks, for anyone out there who has a problem with how long GTA 6 is taking, see what the online community is on GTA 5 and away and start from scratch when they start GTA 6. That's why they don't want to, because everybody's buying those shark cards and spending hard-earned money on those skins and cars and everything else for that series. Sorry, that was a sidebar. So the only other type of game that has come out since this online multiplayer voice chat, etc., community building style is the indie simulator game. Now, this is a very interesting type of game because it actually, I feel, spits in the face of where video games have come to, but in a good way. It's definitely done something that I don't think a lot of people back in the day would think would work, but it's actually done fairly well. These are the games that are literally called, whatever the occupation, simulator. So you've got farming simulator, you've got power washer simulator, you've got what else? I would even call some of the NHL, Madden, those are becoming simulator games where you are literally doing almost everything that the actual people who do that occupation do, but you do it in a virtual world. Even games like Animal Crossing are basically foresting and building buildings. Sims is another one too. So this is a game that I think really impacts mental health because these games are traditionally more, yes, Chris, I was waiting for it. I was waiting for it. Thank you. Yes. House Flipper as well. For those who don't know, Crystal loves House Flipper, and House Flipper 2 is coming out for the PlayStation 5. She has made sure to remind me of that multiple times, to the fact that I watched the trailer and went, it's actually not a bad looking game. I'm not going to buy it yet, though. I'll wait till it's on discount. So this is a different type of game. This is a game that's a lot slower, a lot chiller, I guess you'd call it, if the kids still use that term. But doesn't have the online multiplayer voice chat connectivity that is sort of the dominant face of gaming right now. So that's the way it's sort of grown over the years. Let's jump into another section here that I think plays a large part into how much these video games affect our mental health, and that is the ESRB rating system. So if you don't know what the ESRB rating system is, either you've seen it and don't have an idea what the heck that little stamp in the corner is, or you don't know how it started. The ESRB was a community or a board of directors that was formed to basically monitor and rate digital media, video games at the time, because we had great games like Mortal Kombat and other games as well. I'm not going to point all the blame at them, and I use the word blame loosely. There were games like Mortal Kombat that were coming out in the early 90s that really were not what people thought of when they thought of games. You know, Mortal Kombat famously had a lot of blood in it for that time, had a lot of blood in it, violent, and parents and teacher groups and politicians really wanted to make sure that the youth of the day were making sure that they were experiencing the games that they should be and weren't being driven towards the I don't want to call it the darkness of video games, but they thought it was. It really was to deter underage games, is what. Similar to the parental warnings on music labels or on CDs at the time, this kind of turned into a hot or not list for a lot of kids. If you saw that ESRB rating and it was higher than an E, and it would turn into like an 18 or something like that, or a 14A or something, you really thought this must be a really, really fun game. It did a lot back when it first started. I think, unfortunately, after about a decade, we were into 2005, 2000, we'll say 2000, 2005. By that point, this thing called the internet was already starting to gain a lot of headway, and the ESRB wasn't really as impactful as it once was because, dude, you can Google pretty much anything on this box and find it, and I mean Google anything. Um, Funny how GTA is played by kids young. Well, and that's also the thing, is that the ESRB could only do so much. It could only tell parents, what is in the game. It doesn't, you can't, unless it's an AO rating, which is an adult only game, and there's only been a few of them. You can't really do anything when it comes to selling it to underage. You can ask for ID. You can tell the parents about what that rating is, but if they say yes, you can't do much about it. And especially now with digital, like, the kids get a certain amount of money, they're going to buy whatever they want if they have their own account. So it's hard to enforce it. It's a great idea, and it was great at the time. I understand why, but it's kind of hard. So this was a way to sort of prevent the corruption, let's say, of the youth. And it definitely does play into mental health, because they didn't want the mental health to be affected too early. You didn't want kids, 6-7-year-olds playing what would be soon GTA or Mortal Kombat. And you had those games which the ESRB really put on the spotlight as the ones to be worried about. But I think it was really later was when the games really became an issue, which I'm going to call this section extreme video games. And this is where the technology had gotten to the point where anybody could kind of make a video game if they really wanted to. And you really had indie studios getting kind of wanting to follow the movie industry, where they really wanted to push the envelope. And as a famous comedian, I wish I could remember who said it, but somebody said, our generation like to push the envelope, but this new generation is licking the envelope and cutting their tongue on it. And around the 97, late 90s, early 2000s, like I said, you were really able to make a game if you wanted, and the distribution was a lot easier. Sega and Nintendo back in the day really had a chokehold on who was allowed on their platforms. They really had a lot of approvals to go through, but once you hit that PlayStation 2 era, it kind of got a little easier. And then we had games like in 1997, we had Postal, which was literally a first-person shooter where you were a postal worker and you went, quote unquote, postal at your work and were blowing pay. And it was, for that time, it really brought up a lot of controversy because there was some real-life incidents where stuff like that happened. There was also famously a game in 2015 called Hatred, which I don't think a lot of people remember, but that was literally a game where you played as a protagonist. It was a very dark game, and I don't mean dark as in not just story, but lit dark. And it was a top-down. You were a guy in a trench coat, and you just walked around a neighborhood shooting random people because you wanted to die, and that's how that was the game. Is the more people you killed before you died, the better your score was. And that also got a lot of public outrage because they didn't want kids, even adults, to be playing that game. I believe it famously got banned in many countries, but it was still available pretty regularly for a lot of people because, again, we were on the internet at that point, so you were able to download pretty much anything you wanted to. Yes, and also Neopets. Thank you, Crystal. Neopets was one game we were all very scared of. Very scared of hearing that beeping randomly in the middle of the night, knowing that your pet was starving. But not just extreme video games in the fact of Postal and Hatred, where it was, shooting people for random reasons and blood splatter and stuff. There were a lot of sexual games that were readily available for the PlayStation 2. I didn't really notice it when I was that age, but looking back on it, we had Leisure Suite Larry, which is famous for having a lot of PC games, but this was the first one that was regularly available on consoles, where you're basically Leisure Suite Larry magna cum laude, which is yes, thank you, Edith. I'm glad you're here. Where you were basically running around campus trying to have sex with everybody. I have that on PlayStation because it's actually a pretty funny game, but I can understand how it could be a little controversial for some people. You had the PlayStation Mansion game, which I used to have and I sold. It's worth so much now, which is basically it was basically The Sims, but you were Hugh Hefner and you were building the PlayStation Mansion. You can actively have sex anywhere in the mansion that you wanted. Edith, you do not say anything bad about that amazing franchise called Dead or Alive. God bless Dead or Alive Beach Volleyball. But that is another one. DOA Beach Volleyball was a very, I don't know if it was controversial. It was hilariously funny that they just flat out went, oh, this game has amazing jiggle features. Let's just make a volleyball game out of it. See, that's the thing. When you say Dead or Alive, I had DOA 3 for PlayStation 2. I think I still do. And I don't even think of beach volleyball at first until we're talking about it in this context. I'm like, oh yeah, they did make a volleyball game. They also made a wrestling game, which was terrible. But the one that really stands out for the PlayStation era, and I don't think people remember it as much as they should, because it's actually a game that you cannot, well, I don't know if you can't legally own it, but you cannot sell it. If you own this game for the PlayStation 2, you are legally not allowed to sell it. And that is the Guy game. And if you don't know what the Guy game is, the Guy game came out, I believe, around 2008, 2007 for the PlayStation 2. And it looks like a very harmless trivia game. It's a bunch of guys. It's sort of like the Girls Gone Wild thing. And they go onto a beach. It's real people. And a bunch of guys go onto a beach. I think it's in Miami. And they talk to these girls in bikinis and they ask them trivia questions. And if they get the trivia question wrong, or you get the trivia question wrong, I don't know, I haven't played it. They take their tops off. And it's an A-only game. It was only available for PlayStation 2, I believe. I don't think it was for Xbox. And it's a really dumb game that most people didn't give a crap about when it came out. However, one of the girls who was featured in the game who went topless actually came out later on and mentioned that she lied about her age when they were filming the scene. And technically, she was underage. So, in the eyes of the law, that game is considered child pornography. And I believe the game company got sued for it because they did not do the proper background checks when they filmed it. It was immediately taken off store shelves, and it is almost impossible to find now because, again, you should not be selling it. I don't think cops are going to be breaking down your door, but in the eyes of the law, and technically, it is considered child pornography because the girl in it, I believe, is 17 and not 18. So that is another version of games that, were easily available for, like we talked about earlier. Grand Theft Auto has an ESRB rating of 18, but these were still available. And they were still easily able to be purchased and downloaded and bought secondhand and stuff because not everybody pays enough attention and will do the background to make sure this stuff doesn't end up in the hands of kids. So we've got all these things in the world. Anyone who has that game has to write a warning in their will. Do not sell this game. Honestly, yeah, I don't know of anybody that owns it. I do know a bunch of people who are giant gaming collections, but I don't know anybody who has it. I have seen it on Facebook Marketplace a couple times, And I've kind of wanted to message them and just been like, just so you know, like, again, I don't think cops are going to be breaking down your door, but just so you know. So we've got a lot of things to think about in mental health. So we've gone from an industry and a game culture where we were sitting next to our friends talking and enjoying video games, and now we have an online presence, and we've got games that are pushing the envelope and letting kids, adults, I can't even say just kids, kind of do whatever they want. There's kind of a video game out there for if you want to drive a bus, you can drive a bus. If you want to go through an airport in Modern Warfare 2 and just blow people away with a shotgun, you can do that too. So you've got a wide range of media, and it's kind of similar to other forms of media. Music's the same, movies are the same, kind of all falls into media in general. So let's go into my experiences. So my experiences, for those who don't know, I do suffer from mental health every now and then. I've kind of suffered with it since I was a teen. I've been through depression. I have had panic attacks. I've had them recently. I understand mental health because I am someone who has mental health problems. I do not have any direct siblings, so I did not have that experience until I had some really good friends where I had that co-op experience. So I never grew up having that community experience. Even now playing multiplayer, like I haven't played multiplayer co-op games or even just multiplayer in a long time. I played Modern Warfare 2 and COD pretty religiously back in the Modern Warfare 2 Black Ops era. But after a while, I realized that my mental health was taking a hit. I was muting a lot of people. I really did not like the way that certain people were being treated on my team, even, especially when I think it was Black Ops. You could do the custom emblem, it's almost like MS Paint, and you can really create your own emblems to run around with. There was some pretty inappropriate things being painted on there. And, at the time, the servers and the community and the mods and all those things were not really doing a lot to get rid of them. So you had the problem of going in there and seeing those images and then hearing every sexual, racial slur under the sun, as well as every curse word ever uttered. And I just ended up not liking it. I ended up muting all the time. I realized after probably 2-3 generations of Call of Duty, I realized I'm missing out on so many better games that were better for my mental health. And, I'm not saying they were, I was not playing, My Little Pony and Lego. I was playing Lego, but I wasn't playing kid games. I was still enjoying other games, but just the community at the time was just too toxic, and it just wasn't something I was enjoying. So that's my experience with mental health. Mass Packet in chat says Black Ops was hard for me when it came to voice chat. God, I hated how I was treated out there. You know what? I totally agree. I saw so much. I know Xbox is wanting to cut back on. I know they're doing fines and blocking, or not fines. They're doing blocks of accounts for a certain amount of time. Unfortunately, it's the world we live in. I don't want to deal with it, so I don't. I ignore it. I get away from it. So let's jump into, is it good for mental health? That is the ultimate question. Well, I have my opinions, but let's go with my opinion. Let's go with my opinion, and then I've got a few articles we're going to pop up here, and we'll take a look what the professionals say. So, can it help your mental health? Yes and no. I think This is the analogy I use for it. I feel that video games and any other kind of media is very similar to the movie The Mask with Jim Carrey. When Jim Carrey puts the mask on, his personality explodes and he becomes a very slapstick cartoon version of himself. When Darius Tyrell, the villain in the movie, puts the mask on, pulled that name out of frickin' thin air. When he puts the mask on, he becomes a very scary, intimidating villain because that's what his character is. I feel that that's sort of how video games are. If you're playing and you're that type of person that wants to play those games, that gets you into that mood and gets you aggressive and frustrated and taking out aggression, well, that's what you're going to play, and that's going to affect your mental health in a negative way. If you don't, and you play something like a Lego game that's more relaxing, or an Animal Crossing game, or Mario or something like that, it's going to have a positive effect on your mental health. It's really all about, like most media, movies, music, etc., are no different. Whatever you bring into your system is what's going to fuel your emotions. It's really, it's easy to say, but it's very, I've seen it myself. I personally can't watch Gordon Ramsay because I know when I watch it, I get frustrated. And then when I'm out interacting people, including my wife, I can feel that I'm wound a little tighter and I don't, I snap a little bit quicker and I don't think about things logically. So I know not to do that. People have choices. And I think that's what really needs to be understood, is that if you're one of those people, and we've seen the videos online, if you're one of those people that will play anything, Madden, COD, Stardew Valley at this point, and you're winding up and throwing your keyboard across the room, you probably shouldn't be playing that game anymore. And that's a choice that you're continuing to play it. Alex in chat says, it depends. It can be good, it can be bad. I had a friend who became recluse and he used WoW to relearn how to interact with people. Exactly. And we will talk a little bit more about that when we talk about the articles. I know something is one of those type of things is in one of the articles. People have choices. People need to, they kind of have to take accountability on what they're bringing into their system. Like I said, obviously you play Fortnite or you play Call of Duty and you play something like that where you've got people screaming in your ear and cursing and all that. That's a completely different feeling than if you played Stardew Valley or something relaxing that's not going to have that much stress. I loved Power Washer Simulator because it was relaxing and I don't have to click my brain on and go nuts and think about all these things that I like. It feels like I'm at work at that point. Let's jump into these articles quickly. I know we're getting a little late in the episode. I want to not take up too much more of your night. I also have to get ready for vacation leaving tomorrow. So let's pop these up quick. Let's first start off with the Harvard Health Publishing. They put out a study, The Health Effects of Too Much Gaming, back in December 22nd, 2020. Is there anything good about gaming? Before discussing the harms of gaming, it's only fair to mention the benefits. Aside from being entertaining and a fun pastime, gaming can awake a way for people to interact with each other, a virtual community, as they work together toward completion of common tasks. Very true. It is definitely something that we can come together as a community to solve a virtual problem. Our society suffers from an epidemic of loneliness, and gaming can be a vehicle to connect with others, including otherwise difficult to connect with people in your life, such as kids, grandkids, or I've seen this quite helpful with autistic children who can have challenges with traditional modes of communication. Similar to what Alex says, they become a recluse and now they're learning how to interact with people. They go on to talk about game injuries, but there's also the negative side, gaming addiction. Gaming has also been associated with psychological problems. It is still an open question whether video game addiction or internet gaming disorder, and we'll talk about that in a minute, is a unique syndrome. According to the American Psychological Association, IGD is defining as experiencing at least 5 of the following 9 criteria over a 12-month period: gaming preoccupation, withdrawal, tolerance, loss of interest in other activities, downplaying use, loss of relationship, education, career opportunities, gaming to escape or relieve anxiety, guilt, or negative mood states, failure to control, and continued gaming despite psychological problems. Kind of like we just talked about. It really, really makes you think about, is there a line of when it's too much? Because again, it depends on the game, but it also depends, like it says in there, how much you play. If you are pushing away family, pushing away friends, pushing away career or life advancements just to play a game, you may have a problem. Forbes did an article in 2012, August 15th. How can video games influence the mental health of users? Low self-esteem. People with addiction problems usually have low self-esteem, but the scenario is a bit different with video game addiction. The problem does not occur within video games themselves, but when going out into the real world. I think things like presented in Ready Player One, the book, the movie, it's something that we can really think about could be something in the future. Like, we really could become somebody that is like this and just sitting there with a headset on all the time, just not wanting to leave that virtual world. States of depression, lack of motivation, anxiety as well. There's obviously benefits, but in short, you can enjoy many benefits of the game, video games, but it is necessary to use them in moderation. 100%. This is an escape, and this should be just like anything else. I think that's, like I said, about people have choices. You need to do these things like any other thing. If you're addicted, you could be addicted to anything. You could be addicted to alcohol. You could be addicted to movies. You could be addicted to adult entertainment. You could be addicted to anything. That's an addiction problem. I don't really consider that a gaming mental health problem. That's just, you have an addiction problem and you need to fix that. Why are you having an addiction problem? And then again, going back to the gaming addiction, wrong one. World Health Organization, gaming disorder. How is gaming disorder identified? For gaming disorder to be diagnosed, the behavior pattern must be severe enough that it results in impairment to a person's function in personal, family, social, educational, occupational, or other important interests. Plain and simple, like, it really depends on the person and how much they are spending doing these things and how much it's taking up their lives and how much they're not willing or able to go out and see and enjoy the rest of the world. If you're missing out on life events because you'd rather sit in front of a computer or in front of a console and play, no matter what the game is, that's a problem. Playing Fallout is the best escape for me each night until the scoreboard is over with. Agreed. I totally understand how that is good. Japan has an issue where they call it hikikomori. I know I butchered that. People who shut themselves off from the world to play video games. I can totally see that. I can see that for sure. That's probably something that's coming to the US as well in some way or fashion. So what's the future hold? We've talked about, it really depends on the person. It really depends on the environment. It depends on the game, etc. So what does the future hold for gaming? Well, as we saw in the one photo, VR headsets are going to become a thing of the future and are going to become a thing of the present pretty quickly. I know PlayStation still has their PlayStation 2 VR out now. Meta has their VR. And as Alex said, Ready Player One is something that could be a possibility. We could find a world where, we're simply performing digital tasks online. And that's, I think when you go back to a certain generation and you explain to them what computers are and what this is, a lot of people would say, well, how do you spend your day? spending your day on these things doing tasks. Well, we figured out a way to do it. And I don't see how that doesn't happen in a virtual world. And we are wearing headsets. It's definitely something that's going to take over our world. I know trying to do gamification of almost any task now is becoming more and more of a norm. Trying to make everything a game is becoming more and more of an addiction problem. I don't know, but I know we will unfortunately have a problem with some people not being able to deal with it. And I hope that it doesn't affect too many people. I hope people can get help when they need it. If you are struggling with mental health problems, by the way, please go talk to somebody if you can. If you can't, or you don't feel like you want to talk to somebody about it, the best advice I can give is really try to review what you consume from a media standpoint and a food diet perspective. I know that when I drink too much caffeine, that definitely changes my mental health. I know, like I talked about Gordon Ramsay earlier, that definitely affects my mental health. So really try and take stock of what you consume on a daily basis and see you. Try to review your environment. That might also be playing a factor. Being in a job you don't like, and I know it's easier said than done than to leave, but it's definitely something that you may need to fix and you may need to change. I know that change is hard, but dealing with that type of thing for a long, long time is way harder. Believe me, I've been there. But if worst comes to worst, please talk to somebody, whether it's a doctor, a psychiatrist, a trusted friend, a stranger, if you have to, if you don't want to talk to somebody who knows you. Sometimes strangers can tell you, not a stranger, but someone doesn't know you, intimately, because they might be able to see something from an impartial standpoint. I know I've had friends in the past that have seen me struggle with mental health and believe that not jumping in and trying to do anything is helping me. I know they came from a good place doing that way, but sometimes you need it. So yeah, if you're struggling with mental health, there are phone numbers out there you can contact. If you want to talk to me, leave a comment, tell me to DM you. You can DM me on Instagram. I'll always talk. Like I said, I've suffered from mental health. I do suffer from mental health from time to time, so I get it. But yeah, I think in the end, to put a button on this, I definitely think mental health in video games can be a positive. It can definitely be a great distraction, but just like anything else in life, if you do too much of it, it becomes a problem. So if you're enjoying your games, enjoy your games. If you're not enjoying your games, maybe you should either stop playing or we should try and look for another game that makes you feel better. I did say we're going to talk to the audience quickly, so I'm just going to jump in. I asked some people on Instagram, I put it on my stories, do you think it affects mental health? Do you think video games affect your mental health? And I've got a few people putting in some input. Pretty Nerdy Crystal, who's in chat. Yes, blowing up super mutants and death claws gets my aggression out. Glad it helps. I'm glad you're able to get that aggression out. It needs to come out every now and then. And if it's blowing up things in Fallout, I'm glad you're doing it. Garrett Lowry on the post said 100,000%. So I'm glad that's helping him. Sheer Creations, when you're older, they frustrate you. They've gotten too complicated. I kind of agree with that. I kind of agree with that. I'm starting to want to play really boring basic games, or for the first time in a long time, wanting to replay games that I've played in the past. I always wanted to play the newest game, the most fun game, but I'm now playing Batman Arkham Knight for the first time in years, and I beat that game like death. So it's interesting. I'm really wanting to play games that I really can turn my brain off and just veg and enjoy. Anything with way too much to do, like I think I've said on the show many times, Red Dead Redemption 2, I love the idea of it. I loved Red Dead 1. Red Dead 2 just has way too much for me to care about. It's just not, it's way too much work for me. It becomes a job, and I just don't want to do that. Freakish Workshop, 100% agree. Good for you. And Eddie, or Edith, sorry. Why did I put Eddie? Edith said 100%, but I think it depends on the game. That's why I love that there's a genre called cozy games now, and I agree. That is a great style of game that just lets you kick back and enjoy. Natasha in chats has been playing Spyro games that they redid for the PS4. I have those as well, and I love them. I didn't play the original Spyro. I had the N64, so it's good to jump in and play those classic PlayStation games. Folks, it is 4 after. I'm so glad you guys to stick around. Before you guys go, as I've said before, I'm going on vacation as of tomorrow. That does not mean there will not be a show next week. It will not be live, however. The next 2 weeks, man, my nose itchy. It's a cocaine problem I have. The next 2 weeks, there will be a show, same time, 8 o'clock on Monday. It will not be live, though. Next week will be the Freakish Workshop will be joining me. We will be discussing the best Batman suits. We both have about 5 or 6 or 10, I can't remember. We go through a whole bunch of Batman suits from the comics to the video games to the movies, etc. It's going to be a great show. I can tell you we're probably going to do more of these because we had a lot of fun. The week after, this is the week of the 28th, 29th. That will be another pre-recorded show. I'm going to be here solo, and I'm going to be talking about my time working as a Tim Hortons supervisor. Does it have anything to do with nerddom? Not at all. But I want to save the nerd topics for when you guys are here, because I like having these discussions and these chats about what you guys think, and I don't want to waste the topic while you guys can't do that. The topics are going to be interesting. When I worked at Tim's downtown Hamilton night shift, as the thumbnail says, it is sex, drugs, and double doubles. It is going to be a fun show. I'm going to tell you all about some really crazy stories that I had to deal with over my few years as a supervisor. Folks, I hope you had fun. I will see you all in the very near future. I'm going to go enjoy some vacation for the next couple of weeks, but I will see you soon. I love you. Thank you so much for sticking around. I will see you all soon. Goodbye from Monday Night Nerd. I'll see you all soon. Love you. Hey, thanks for watching Monday Night Nerd. If you enjoyed this content, please hit the subscribe button, like this content, and follow on social media for even more nerdy fun. See you soon.